everyone, welcome to the page. Today I am making a custom order for a friend and customer of mine. Actually, the person that's purchasing it as well as the person who's getting it has been a customer in the past who are both now friends. Love them to death. The person that's receiving this wreath loves giraffes, talks about them a lot. She posts pictures of giraffes every day on her Facebook page, as well as some uplifting comments to make the beginning of your day start out great, which is amazing. Thank you for doing that, Brandy. We like it a lot. She just loves the giraffe, so she and I had talked about making one of these back in about June, and I was having difficulties finding the product to make this at first, so it was taking a while, and she never followed up with me, so her sister did a class with me. And I told her about the idea, and she says, do it. I'll give it to her for Christmas. So here we are. You won't see this video until after Christmas because we want to make sure that she gets it and gets to have the Christmas surprise of opening it before we release this to the public. So there's that. So stay with me and follow along while I make this design. It's what's called a storm door style wreath, affectionately known as the pancake wreath. It is designed to look big and fluffy from the front like it does here, but it's only just under 4 inches deep, so that if you do have a storm door or a screen door and you're planning to place this there, it's going to fit there without crushing any of the product. It won't look mushed. You can't do that with the bigger, bulkier wreaths that have big bows and such, so this is a perfect solution for that. But of course it can go anywhere else as well, which is nice. So follow along while I make this for my customers and friends today, Brandy and Dawn. Okay, so like I said, this is a special order for a friend for Christmas for her sister. Actually, they're both friends now. Customers first, but they became friends. I love these people. They're a lot of fun and really good people. So when person that's getting this and I were chatting online back in June, I started searching because she loves giraffes. She's always posting on Facebook with giraffes, and I love seeing them every day. And I wanted to make sure I got something that was not juvenile in appearance with the giraffes, basing it a lot off of the giraffes she used in her Facebook posts. So it took a long time for me to find the sign I really thought would be appropriate. It was actually easier to get the giraffe ribbon on Amazon. That was the only place I could find it, though. This is the ribbon that I chose. So we are going to do, this is the combination because it's so hard to find giraffe, and I didn't want to take away from the giraffe ribbon, so I'm doing it twice and with a solid color in the middle. Anyway, I squirreled there for a moment. Let's get back to the story. So we had talked about it, and I was working behind the scenes trying to find what I wanted to use for the perfect wreath for her. So when her sister did a class with me in November, I brought up that she, Brandy, wanted a giraffe wreath, possibly, if it could happen. And we made the decision there to make it a Christmas present for her. So that's why this video did not come out until after she received it for Christmas. So that's the whole story. It was fun. And, a little bit challenging trying to find the giraffe that was perfect for her, because most of what's out there is very juvenile, and I didn't think that the stained glass look behind the giraffe that is so popular in signs right now was the right look for her. When I saw this one, I knew it was it. I gave her sister Dawn a few suggestions, but she also agreed that this is the one. So that's where we are. So we've got our ribbon bundles made. Since this is not a tutorial for a kit, I already prepared all the materials. So I have all of these cut. I made them a little bit longer than I do in the kits. These are 13 inches versus 12 inches to give them a little bit more length. So there are 12 bundles to go with the 12 zip pipe cleaners on the frame. I will give some general direction for why things are the way they are. This is a 14¼ inch frame with 12 pipe cleaners. There's 6 crossbars here and 4 rings. That's important for doing this style of wreath. It's a storm door style affectionately known as the pancake wreath. And 6 of the pipe cleaners go on the outer 2 rings around the crossbars. And then the other 6 go on the inner 2 rings between the crossbars. When we work on this style wreath, we do the outside 6 first, and then we go back and do the inside 6. So the mesh that I chose is a chocolate brown with a natural burlap stripe in it. Let me bring it closer so I can get a better look at it for you. Let's see if it'll let me. It looks better against itself, so let me show you the roll. If I can figure out what I'm doing. Down here. No, here. Cameras. It really doesn't do it justice. It's much darker than you can see it on the actual video, but that's what it looks like. So let me bring it back out. Okay. So this is 10-inch mesh. When I say 10-inch, let me put this out of the way. We don't need that for a while. It's 10 inches this way. We don't need this for a while. It's 10 inches this way, cut in 20-inch increments. So you have 12 pipe cleaners. So you have 12 pieces of mesh. So you have 12 bundles of ribbon. So 12, 12, and 12. Those are very key factors in the normal. But, you know, on this one I gave it an extra inch. But my kits, it's 12, 12, and 12. So this is 12 pieces, 12 pieces, 12 pieces of each, but 13 inch in length, okay? So hopefully you followed that, all right? So let's get started. I'm going to start with the mesh, and this is a designed mesh, so I don't need to actually worry about keeping on center. I can do that pretty easily since it's got a pattern. I put the clip on there because that is the center and to hold it down. So that it doesn't curl up, because you have the curl side down on the mesh when you're ruffling it for the frame. I also like to make sure the pipe cleaners, I got all the things today, a cough, a little sneeze. I think it's because the heater's on now. It's nice and cozy in here. I'm going to spread these all out so that they are horizontal to me as I turn the wreath frame. Let's try to stay on track, Marguerite. I should have done this before I started with the mesh. But they're all ready. The extras are pushed onto the inside to keep them out of the way for now. Now, mesh. 20 inches this way, 10 inches this way. We need to find the center and mark it. It's easy with this because it has a pattern. But if it didn't, the easiest way to find your center is to fold it in half and put your finger where the center is. And that's what you do. And usually you take the clip and mark it where that is, turn it around, and do it on the other side. And I'll do that with the next one. So now the ruffling. The way we ruffle is we put our thumbs outside of the end of the mesh and then take the rest of the fingers and curl up the mesh to the clip at the top, keeping as close as to the center as possible. That's what's nice about this having the lines in it. It makes it easy for me to stay centered. If not, you can use your cutting mat or something else, or just focus on the clip to know you're on center. So once I was done, I gathered it in my thumb and forefinger, nice and loosely, because I want to make sure that this is nice and round before we put it into the frame. And we want to make sure that these edges are even. So it makes that perfect circle. And then you're going to take that form, bring it in front of you. I do it at a slight angle because I'm left-handed. I think that's why, but it's the most comfortable position for me. Find the most comfortable position for you. Don't contort your body when you're working on this. It's supposed to be fun. Okay? So we make sure those pipe cleaners are nice and flat out where they are, and then we take this piece of mesh and we put it in the frame vertically. So the pipe cleaner is horizontal, the mesh is vertical. Okay? So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to twist it tight, very tight, and low to the frame 2 to 3 times. And that's it. The reason we do it tight and low is to keep this wreath as thin as possible, because the original design for it is for a storm door wreath. That means it's got to be under 4 inches deep to put behind a screen or a storm door. Otherwise, it'll be too fluffy and get crushed. And the whole idea behind a storm door wreath is to keep it thin. It looks really fluffy when you look at it straight on, but again, from the side, it's super thin. So now that we have the mesh in there, it's in there vertical. Get these pipe cleaners up and out of the way because we don't need them right now. And then we're going to take that outside cut edge of the mesh over the inside cut edge on one side. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. And then just manipulate it till you get it right. That's sticking out a little far. See that? Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more so you can see that. See how that's sticking out almost 2 inches from the edge of that? We're going to need to fix that. To fix that, I'm going to grab the piece of mesh towards the top to bring it out to that edge. But I'm going to hold it from the pipe cleaner and I'm going to grab at the base of the pipe cleaner. We don't want to grab the mesh at the outside edges because that'll change the design and it'll look damaged. Okay, we don't want to do that. If it doesn't come out like you want, you can always loosen the pipe cleaners up and reset it and then tighten them back up, but it looks like I was able to do it without doing that. Usually that's the case. So now these two are even. So hopefully that helps you understand what I mean by having the edges line up. Let's go back out. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that everything looks good. This is in a little bit too far, so I'm going to pull it out a little bit because this is pointy out here. We don't want it to be pointy. We want it to be nice and round. What's most important on this layer, for sure, is that this outside edge is circular because this is really the only part of the mesh on this layer that you're going to see. So you want to make sure it looks its best, and then you can turn it under a little bit. Turning it under helps keep the round shape, and it helps it stick to itself up here. I've said it before, I've said it a million times. Mesh frays. There's no avoiding it. But if you can take those cut edges and put them away from the outside of the edge of the wreath, the less fraying you're going to have on it, and the less you handle it as well. So see, this is cut, and this is cut, so it's facing inside of the wreath, so nobody will be touching that whatsoever once it's done. All you'll have is the finished side out here. Now when I build these, I skip one. I do every other because I like the way it looks when it lays. So let's go on to the next one. So I'm going to do this all the way, every step, to show you one time. So I'm folding it in half to find the center, putting my finger there, and then I'm marking it with my chip clip. It's amazing how many household items will help you with the process of making a wreath, right? And then I turned it around, remembering it's still curl side down, always curl side down in this technique. And then fold it directly in half, mark it with your finger, and then that means I want to use this line to be my center. Gathering it into my thumb, which I placed on the outside of the mesh, and I'm just gathering it all the way up to that chip clip, trying to keep my eye on that line so that I stay as centered as possible. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't come out right, let it go out of your hand and try it again. But the less you handle mesh, the better. So now I have it in my thumb and forefinger super loose. So I'm going to make sure everything's lined up. These outside edges, I'm pulling on it a little bit, but gently. That's why I'm keeping it loose in my fingers, because I don't want to disrupt the design in the mesh. All right. And once I'm satisfied, I'm going to go over here. That pipe cleaner I'm going to work with is now horizontal to me. I'm going to take that mesh vertical to me. Put that in there. Put the pipe cleaners around. Tighten it really tight because we want to keep this profile low. 1, twisting low. 2, twisting it close to the frame, keeps it nice and low, and then bring it up out of the way so that I can bring my outside cut edge over my inside cut edge, and my outside cut edge over my inside cut edge on this side. Okay. Check my work. Everything's even up here, everything's even up here once I pulled in the curl on the outside. It helps keep it in place. I'm going to skip this one again and go to this one. So, curl side down, and I use the edge of the table to keep it uncurled for me to work with initially. That goes there. And then I'm going to fold that in half. I've done enough of these I can pretty much eyeball it, but it never hurts to be more precise. And you notice this time after I started to ruffle it, I just held it with one hand and then ruffled with the other. It's the trick that I do when I became more proficient in this. You can do it that way if you feel comfortable in the get-go. I haven't eaten anything today. That's probably why my stomach and everything is giving me fits. When you become more proficient in it, I recommend you wait till you get a little bit more proficient and then do it that way. But experiment. None of this stuff is exact science. So if you don't like to do it exactly the way I do it, feel free to change it up. So these are horizontal. I'm going to bring this up. Put this in vertically. Bring my pipe cleaners up right where my fingers are, because that's basically the center. It should be. Tightly twist the pipe cleaner low. 1, 2, 3. So 2 or 3. You don't have to do 3 if you feel like it's secure enough in there. 2 is enough. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge and over inside cut edge. And there you go. Let's curl that under. And now we're going to go back and do the 3 in between these two. Okay? Let's see. There's this one. Goes pretty quickly when you have all your supplies prepped for you. When I'm on my own and not narrating, I can throw these together in 30 minutes, but I don't expect that from you, nor should you. Unless you get to the point I and other creators, like my mentors, are. Oh, we've made thousands and thousands. I'm about 2,000, but I know a lot of people that have done a lot more. There's lots of us out there creating content, so I appreciate you being here with me. I try to keep the direction for the most basic and simplest and easiest for most people that are fearful of doing this. I've had classes where I've had people indicate that they are not crafty, they can't do this, but they are going to give it a try. And by the time they leave, their confidence level is nice and they got a smile on their face. It's great to see that feeling of accomplishment from my students. So there we go. So see that? I don't know if you can see it, but this dips in a little more than I'd like it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold those pipe cleaners and grab it at the base and bring it out. So it's going to pull it in over here and bring it out on this side. So it's a better circle. It's more even all the way around. And it's good to go. Always grabbing at the base. I made another adjustment there. That one wasn't as perfect because I was talking a lot and just started flying by the seat of my pants. Okay, so let's go over here. These are ready to go. Lay it out curl side down. Use my clip to mark the center. It's especially important to use something to mark the center when you're using a solid colored mesh, because it is harder to stay on center when you're doing that. This is not perfection we're looking for. That would be fabulous, but there's no reason to make it perfect, if you know what I mean, because a lot of the mechanics of this are going to be hidden. Just get it as close as possible. Don't beat yourself up. No one is perfect. I'm going to be different, and I'm going to turn it the other way. I have a habit of doing that, so I apologize now if it confuses you. So now I put the mesh in vertical to the horizontal pipe cleaners, tight and low 2 to 3 times. And now I'm going to lift them in the air out of the way and bring my outside cut mesh over the inside cut edge. It's a little bit more challenging, but not really, now that the previous 3 pieces of mesh are on the frame, because now you have to deal with it when you're setting this next 3 up. Let me pull that out a little bit. There we go. It's not a big deal. You just work through it. Take your time. Time to sneeze again, like, apparently. Excuse me. Beginning of the season of using the heater, it always kind of has a dustiness to it. So I think that's why I'm sneezing. Alright. Fold it in half. It's curl side down. The mesh is curl side down. Oop, and I already started to ruffle it. Let's slow down there a minute, Miss Missy. Okay. When I'm on my own, I also sometimes don't use the chip. Usually only when I'm using mesh that has a design in it, because you really can't go wrong if you follow the design. Alright. That makes it a whole lot easier. Alright, here we go. Pipe cleaners, horizontal, mesh vertical. Twist tight and low 2 to 3 times. Take that outside cut edge, get out of the way, over the inside cut edge, outside cut edge, over the inside cut edge. Okay, I'm going to curl it under first and see how that looks. And it's still too long on this side here, so I'm going to grab it where it's tucked in. It goes in a little bit more, because that should take care of, there we go, that extra. Oh, I did it in the wrong place. Bring it back out. So, how does it look up here? There we go. Alright, curl that under. And now we finished the first layer of mesh. So now we get to start playing with the ribbon. We're going to take the first 6 bundles that I made. That's 3, 5, and then this. And we are going to put them in the pipe cleaners. So for the mesh, we had the pipe cleaners horizontal. For putting the ribbon in, we take it vertical, because the ribbon's going to go horizontal. So, mesh, vertical, ribbon, horizontal. So see, I got all those ready first. And when I prepped these, I made sure I folded them in half evenly, so that I have a nice, thick, good crease right here, because that's going to tell me where my center is when I ruffle and gather the ribbon. So what I do is I'm just going to gather it up the center and put it in my thumb and forefinger, and at least for the bottom layer, I'm going to hold it with one hand and pull all of the ribbon down towards me in an inverted V. So it looks like this. If you do that ahead of time, once you put it in the pipe cleaners, it stays facing out better. Not perfectly, but much better than if you don't and do it afterwards. So I'm putting it in the pipe cleaner horizontally, and this time we're going to do tight and low a couple of times, and then we're going to twist it and upwards towards the ceiling till we create a 1-inch twist here. I'm going to bring it in, show you that twist. I'm still navigating the camera. Please, nobody get sick. See how there's that little bitty 1-inch twist? And then we're going to take our wire cutters, and we're going to cut off the excess above it and throw it in the trash. Keep it clean if you can. So you're going to want to tuck this in between one of the layers. So I did that. And now I'm going to separate the ribbons out in the pattern that I want. I always lift the top ones off the bottom first, because you do the bottom to the top when you're laying your ribbon out. It's less, what's the word? You're not, if you do it from the top down, you're going to mess up the ribbon and then have to refluff it again. So that's why I always say from the bottom up. So I'm lifting these two up, bringing that down. Where on the other side, I had the top one facing the edge of the table. On this side, I have the top one facing the inside of the ring. I do that because it twists better than trying to put both here and both there, since there's 4 of the giraffes. I've been making gingerbread stuff lately a ton for the holidays, so I got gingerbread on the brain. Giraffe. Okay. So again, just like with the mesh, we're going to skip one and go to the next one after that. We're doing every other again. Putting it down on the table after I open up the packet. Gather it up the center, holding it in my thumb and forefinger and bringing the outside, everything to the outside of the table. All right, sometimes I fall over my words. Words are hard sometimes, right? Tight and low twice, and then twist it upwards towards the ceiling till you get an inch stub. That's usually about 6 or 8 twists, unless you have really thin pipe cleaners that you're working with. Tuck that in there so it's not seen. None of this in here is going to be seen, so it's a perfect place to hide your mechanics. Lift and separate. Placing the bottom ribbon first. And if you also notice, I run my fingers over the ribbon as I place them. That also straightens it out if it got wrinkled and gives it a touch of curl. Don't do it too much. Don't spend a lot of time on that because you're going to come back at the end after the wreath is completely finished and make sure they're all facing out because they like to crawl under the mesh on the top layer. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm going to gather here. Ribbon facing the edge of the table. I'm really excited about this wreath. It's not one I've done before. And they're such good friends and customers. I want to make sure it looks really good. Cut off that excess now that I've twisted it. Place the pipe cleaner in here. And actually, they've taken classes, both of them, so they know what I'm doing. They did a great job. The one that's buying this has been a great friend and helpful in getting me classes set up in her community. So, kudos to Dawn. We just did a Christmas class in their community, beginning of November. That was fun. If you go to my Facebook page, you can see a picture of the group. I had 2 different style Christmas wreaths. Did gingerbread and then Merry Christmas. Gingerbread is very popular this year. Very popular. What was it that I was looking at that's going to be big next year? Well, pastels are going to be big again next year. There was something in particular, and it's not coming to me right now. Hopefully it'll come to me at some point during the video. Oh, Nutcracker. Nutcracker is still going to be big. Put this in there. Now we're doing the other 3 in between. The heater went off and I'm not sneezing. Coincidence? Alright, let's get this ribbon all spread out. This is cute ribbon. Really cute. It's all of the ribbon I'm using on this is linen. There are all sorts of different fabrications in ribbon, but my favorite is the linen, so I was happy about that one. The giraffe ribbon was in linen. I just think it lays better. I just like it better. What it is, but it's me. Maybe. It just looks higher quality. I guess that's some of it too. And if you hadn't noticed, I used the whole table. I'm all over the place. I'm not very good at doing the exact same thing over and over and over again in the same spot, so I move around. It's always good to move around, and when you do this sitting, you want to make sure you get up. I'm going to say I get up once an hour so you don't go numb. That's not good. No one wants to go numb. And I'm not particularly fond of this chair, even though I've had it 6 years. So if any of you have any suggestions, I would greatly appreciate it. Drop it down in the comments. This is a Serta that I got at Sam's Club. I feel like I'm falling forward all the time. I have a mat under it, and it still doesn't make any difference. So I've just been suffering through. But then again, like I said, I get up and down when I'm working on these projects as well. But worst case scenario, make sure you're getting up at least once an hour. here sitting for the process. I just don't have it in me anymore to stand the whole time. Put that in. So this got a lot of bubble. That's because of the way I gathered it. If you don't have enough gathers, sometimes it will create like a bubble. I don't know how else to describe it other than a bubble. And it's okay if this doesn't stay down there. It's not going to be seen. It'll be hidden. See that bubble in there. So I'm going to bring the outside one out. And I'll finagle it more when we get to the end. Alright. So that's our first layer. This one wants to stop. This mesh wants to reach the ceiling, and I don't want that, so let me see. See how these keep sneaking back in? That's okay. It's okay. We're just getting started. So I'm going to bring that out there and bring the picture back out so you can see it again. So that's our start. Not much yet. It's coming. So now we're going to go back and we are going to put the next layer of mesh in. So we need to bring our pipe cleaners up between each piece of mesh from the bottom layer first. Get those in position. See how I'm bringing them up between each piece of mesh, the 6 pieces of mesh from the lower layer. Okay, so now I need to do the same thing I did on the bottom layer. Bring these out to me horizontally. I'm bringing them right here in front of me, turning it and not reaching around it and stretching unless you want all that stretching. Keep it simple and easy. Alright, that's all 6, so it's time for the mesh again, like I said. Alright, see, as you get deeper into the roll of mesh, the mesh gets more compacted so it becomes curlier. I usually use those pieces last for the top layer and the outer pieces of mesh in the roll first for the bottom layer so it lays flatter. So I'm going to use that table to uncurl it. Use this to give it some weight while I clip it. I might leave the wire cutters on it to help hold it down at this point, but we may or may not need to do that. Is that working? Yeah, that's holding down enough. If not, I use whatever's handy. A lot of times it's my phone to weigh down the mesh at the other end. And you can either crawl all the way up the table to the clip, or you can bring it down a little at a time like I'm doing right now. Holding that loosely in my thumb and forefinger so I can position the mesh. Okay, and we're going to put the first one in, and we do it in the same fashion as we did on the lower layer. We are going to put the pipe cleaners in the middle, twist them tight and low 2 to 3 times. I'm only going to do 2. And it's harder to see, but I'm going to take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Now it's a little bit more challenging still because I've got mesh and ribbon from the lower layer. But not a problem. Get that stuff all in place. This is too short, so I'm going to bring that. Somehow when I put it in the pipe cleaner, I didn't put it evenly on both sides. Not a big deal. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Alright, let me look at that. Take the glasses off for a minute. I need them to see close up, but sometimes they're more of a hindrance than a help. Grab it there and bring that out a little bit more. Alright, there's always got to be one that's going to be the party pooper, and this one's trying to be, but I got control of the situation. See how that's curved in too much? I'm going to bring it out a little bit more. There we go. I guess I didn't ruffle it as well as I should have, but I'm not taking it out because this side looks the best. That's what's going to be seen, and it's not a problem. Okay. Brandy, you're gonna see how I made your wreath too. Haha. Alright. Put it in the center. Clip it. Turn it. Fold it in half. Ruffle, ruffle, ruffle. And there's no right or wrong way to ruffle it as long as the end result is the same. What you need it to be. And I mix it up a lot. Like I said, I don't like to do the same thing over and over and over again. A lot of this is repetitive, yes, but change it up a little bit. It never hurts. Or it doesn't usually hurt. So I did that one. So I'm skipping this. I'm going to come over to this one. Bring it up vertically. Center it. Tight and low. 1, 2. Up in the air and out of the way. You want it tight enough that it's not going to come out, but you also want a little bit of give in it so that if you do need to adjust the mesh, you can. Okay, what did we do here? It's all under control. It's all under control. Alright, so see how all this ribbon right here is hiding under the wreath now? No big deal. We'll fix that in the end. Curl these edges. Don't touch it any more than you have to. Even though it's not as apt to fray like the mesh, it still can fray. So don't grab your ribbon by the tips. Grab it further up the piece of ribbon. Using that table again to uncurl my mesh. Okay, fold it in half. That's my center. Twist it around. And do the same. You notice I have my finger in the right spot before I fold it. That's how many wreaths I've made. I'm not always right, but when I pay attention, I am. You don't need to rush. If this is something you decide to do, take your time. If you don't want to do it all in one sitting, that's one of the nice things about this particular design style of wreath. You can walk away. I mean, you really can with anything, but yeah, it's easy. You know, if you get all the prep work done, you just have to come back and put it together like I did, like I'm doing today. Tight and low. 2 times, up and out of the way. Huh! You guys, I did it one over. No big deal. I'm going to put this side on top of that because that's the way it's going to be positioned. It's all going to work out in the end. Get that there. I'll just have to make sure this one goes under this one. I get talking too much. That's all it takes. The end result is the same. Some people just go all the way around each one. I just like how it looks and lays better when I do every other. So that's entirely up to you. Since I messed up, I'm going to make sure I do this one next, so I don't forget and place it wrong, because it will bug me if I don't have it done properly. Okay, fold it in half, clip it. It's curl side down, turn it around. So there's only 2 more after this one of the mesh. This is why you really don't want to wear long sleeves when you're making a wreath, because this mesh, fortunately I'm wearing something old, no big deal, it just snagged it. If you wear long sleeves, you want to at least have it rolled up as far as I have, if not farther. There's a little lesson in that, right? Definitely, definitely, definitely don't wear a sweater when you're making a wreath. More than likely, it will not escape snagging. Now this mesh that I'm using in here, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's a fabric poly mesh. That means it has some plastic and some fabric. So it's water resistant. It can handle the weather if you put it outside. That's a lot of the reason why I like the linen too, is because it dries up if it gets wet at all. No problem. It's wired, so it's going to keep its shape. And it doesn't get wrinkly from water hitting it. And if it were to, all you have to do is take a hair straightener. Yes, I said a hair straightener. And run it on low very quickly over your ribbon to straighten it out. When you try to do that with the polyester or the satin ribbon, sometimes can buckle it, which is not a pretty look. Okay. Alright, so there's that one. But now I have to remember it needs to go under here. There we go. I did them out of order. So that leaves these two, and these will lay on top of the pieces of mesh on each side of them. Okay. See, this ribbon's going everywhere now. Don't get hung up on that. Just wait till the end to fix it. Okay. Excuse me. Get a sip of tea. Keep me going for a while, hopefully. Okay. So I got there. See, it's starting to catch on me as it's building. Side note, make sure you have plenty of space to work in. This is a 60-inch? No. 36. 60-inch table by 40 deep. And I use a little over half of it for when I'm making a wreath. You really need at least 3 feet to work in, so everything's not on top of you, or take things off the table while you're doing another portion of the project. And look at me, not paying attention and just going for it. You caught me doing it the way I do it when I'm alone. Alright, let's see. So I didn't even use a clip that time. That's me in my natural habitat. If you're not worried about where it's going to go, meaning the wreath, if it's not going behind a storm and a screen door, you don't have to be as concerned about how flat this is. So if you leave a little bit more ruffle in your mesh, it's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. But I don't know where this is going to go, so I have to assume it's going to be behind a storm or screen door. But either way, it's still going to look nice and fluffy when you look at it from the front. That one's done, so I got one more to go. One needs to be under the mesh, not on top of it. Get that out there. Let's try to get back on track since I'm teaching. Put that up there. This time I'm going to remember to clip it. But as you can see, there are many different ways to get this mesh ready for the frame. You don't have to do it exactly the way I do it. If you find a way that is more effective for you, all the better. I know around the holidays, Hobby Lobby carries some mesh. I don't get a whole lot there, but they carry a mesh that has a pull string in the center, which is great. I'm not sure how that works. I have not tried it yet. You would think after all these years, after 6 years, I would have, but I just haven't been curious enough, I guess, to try that. But yeah, there's holiday mesh, and there's a string up the center that matches the rest of the mesh, and you just pull it from one side, and it gathers it up for you. If you're in a hurry, I think that'd be a great idea. If you don't feel confident with your abilities, I think that'd be a great idea. But I'm good with how I do it. The one thing that I haven't talked about yet is, as you're creating your wreath, if you're doing one yourself, if you have any pieces of mesh that are fraying, you should try to cut the frays off right away, because they're kind of hard to find later. If it doesn't bother you that they're there, don't worry about it. But especially on the top layer, you don't want any strings hanging out. It gives a really unfinished look. You want to give your customers the best product you can. It's handmade, so it's still going to have the look and feel of handmade, but you still want it to look its best. I haven't had to do it much because this mesh has been really good today. I haven't had any problems with much, either that or I just can't see because I took my glasses off, right? Put them back on. You can always go back at the end and look at the front and the back to make sure there's no frays that you missed, strings hanging out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now here's where we mix it up a little bit. We are not going to put the ribbon on next, and this is where I'm going to stand. We're going to put the sign on next. Now this sign came with pre-drilled holes at the top and bottom, so it may be enough. If not, I will go back and put 2 smaller ones on the sides. I use this hole punch. It's not very big, I need to get a bigger one. But this will just poke holes through the tin, no problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pipe cleaners and put them to the outside edge of the wreath. And then I'm going to take a look at it and figure out which piece of mesh I like the perfection of the circle with the best. And I think it's this one. Okay? So I'm going to put that at 12 o'clock and this at 6 o'clock. So you have top, bottom straight down the middle with 2 on the side. That's how I know where the center of my wreath is. And in this particular case, since there's holes in them, I'm going to use the pipe cleaners to hold the sign on. If you don't have that, what you can do is you can attach cable tie mounts on the back. And they look like these. If it's a metal sign, you just take some super glue to glue it on, and then I take some hot glue around the outsides to hold it in place extra. Hot glue is not enough to hold these on long term because either extreme cold or extreme heat will cause them to pop. So the glue I like to use is either DAP Rapid Fuse or this, which is Loctite Super Glue Ultra Liquid Control. It's more of a gel. If you're using a wood sign, make sure it's a 1/4 inch thick and use staples to put pipe cleaners on the back of your sign. And make sure, most importantly, that your staples are no more than a 1/4 inch deep or they'll go through your sign and ruin it, and you don't want that to happen. So I'll go ahead and put this on upside down. Let me turn it back around so that you can see the proper positioning of it. Now I'm going to take this side of the pipe cleaner on at 12 and 6 o'clock, and I'm going to put it through the sign. See that? And then what I'm going to do is secure it fairly taut, but not super tight. You don't want it to push all the way down in. You want it to just try to float on top of the sign, but enough so that the sign's not jiggling around too much, okay? Turn it around. This sign is so cute. Because if you do it too tight, it's going to buckle and it's going to round. We don't want that, okay? So there we go. Now I get to sit back down. Oh, let me put this way. Clean as you go, clean as you go. Okay, sorry if there was a butt shot. Alright, so same thing as with the mesh and the ribbon on the other layers. We're going to put the ribbon in every other set of pipe cleaners and then go back and do the other 3. And the pattern is the same, so it doesn't matter whether you turn it, whether you turn it this way or if you turn it this way. They're exactly the same. The design is the same all the way through. It's not directional ribbon, which means it has words or a pattern that only goes one way. I try to stay away from them. I can't always, especially if they have words in them. But if you have for example, if this had actual pictures of giraffes on it, as long as the giraffes were facing this way and some were facing this way and some were facing this way and that way, it wouldn't matter how you put the ribbon in the wreath. But if they were all facing with their heads on that side and their feet to the left, you'd want to, I always recommend going back and forth so you have the pattern every direction. That's often how I do it with the words as well. So I'm going to do 6 and 12 last. 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock last, because I like the way the ribbon looks and lays when I do those last, because of how they lay on top of the others. So I'm going to start here. And again, the ribbon is going to go in horizontal, so the pipe cleaners are vertical. So I put that in there. You notice I didn't bring the tails to the end of the table. 1, 2, 3. Because we're going to starburst this design. Let me bring it in a little tighter while I do this. There we go. So again, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring up the top two and bring out the outside. This one, the bottom. I'm going to place this one in the center and this one on the top. And this one, I'm going to give it a little bit more curl. You don't have to do it. You can lay it completely flat. I'll do that on this side to begin with to show you what I mean. Bring that out. Because I want to cover a lot of the mesh. So I'm going to leave it completely flat. See the difference? I don't know if you can see the difference in how it looks. This is definitely poofier. I'm going to go back and fix it that way. And I will address the pipe cleaners after I get all the ribbon on, what we're going to do with those. I'm going to skip that one, and I'm going to, that's the top, so I'm not going to skip that one. I'm confusing myself. Goodness. Gather it up. If you notice, sometimes I gather it starting on this side, sometimes I gather it on this side. That all has to do with me wanting to change things up so it doesn't get boring. Tight 2 or 3 times. I'm going to spread it out. I'm going to keep it the same on both sides as you noticed. I put the bottom out first. And the second one, and then the top one, and I'm going to bring these up and make them nice and poofy. Same thing on this one. All of the bottom ones are going out to the edge, and the top ones are going closer to the sign. Fluff these out. So I did those two. So there's 12 and 6. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the same pattern. I'm going to do this one first and then that one so that they lay the same. Hopefully you noticed that. Gather this up the center. Put it in the vertical pipe cleaner. Tighten low 2 to 3 times. And then spread out your ribbon tails. Lift it up and out. Lift it out that way. Get that all fluff. Try to get that little bubble out of there. Okay. Alright. Lift these up. And if you notice, I'm turning the wreath. Once again, I'm turning the wreath to a position that's most comfortable for me, so I'm not contorting myself. I love this wreath, and it's not even finished. Ugh. You have an idea in your head of how it's going to look like, and you just hope it meets your expectations, and it's definitely meeting my expectations. Super cute. Out. Bring that out. Okay. Going to do that. Alright, so now we're ready to do 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So let me do 12 o'clock first. this out nicely. Lift and separate. You notice I'm never grabbing it right from the end. Don't want to do that. While ribbon is much sturdier in that respect to keep from fraying, it still can fray, so we want to avoid having to cut it more after the fact. In the end, I'm going to stand up and make sure all of the bundles of ribbon tails are facing the same, the way they should be facing. Positioned correctly is what I should have said. Okay, last but not least, the 6 o'clock position. And fluff this out, lift and separate. Lift and separate. Okay. It's got a bit of a bubble there, so I'm going to pop it out, lift and separate. Lift and separate. Get these all positioned. Okay, now we are on the pipe cleaners. Because the fact that a couple of them went through the sign, they're shorter than the rest now, so we're going to cut the rest of them so they're the same height, so that they're all even in length. You don't have to do this, but I just think it looks better when it's even. This one just needs to be evened up because one's longer than the other. Same here. And then that leaves this one. Okay. So, there's a couple of things that you can do when you get to this point. You can continue to twist them all the way up and then hide it behind the ribbon so that all you see is a stub, like that. Or you can curl the pipe cleaners, and I'm going with the option of curling the pipe cleaners. And then after that we'll go back and we will fix the ribbon. So what can you do to curl the pipe cleaners? If you have a pencil or a pen, that's the perfect thickness. I also keep some wooden dowels around and also in the kits for when I'm teaching classes. And that's what I have here. I use that and I just wrap the pipe cleaner around on one side till it gets to the bottom. You can either pull it off of the dowel and stretch it out so you see the spiral, or you can keep it nice and close. And this one I'm twisting the opposite way. And place it right there like that. Okay? And then you're just going to do that on the top layer all the way around. One way on one side, then the other direction on the other side. Okay. Nice and keep it nice and low to the base. The other direction. One way on this side. And one way on the other side. The other way on the other side. There's that. 2 to go. Now, as far as hanging instructions, you just use the ring that is the base as the point where you hang it. You just take a command strip, command hook, if it's going on a door or wall, and hang it from the wire frame on the back, or if you have a wreath hanger, that's perfect. But you don't need to add any loops on the back. I have done that in the past because I do craft shows and I would hang everything on hangers, but it's not necessary for hanging it up in the home. As a matter of fact, if you use that pipe cleaner that's on the back that I use for hanging for transport, your wreath is never going to be straight. It's always going to be a little cockeyed because they're not perfectly set on the back. All right, I'm going to stand up. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the mesh on the top layer, and I'm going to bring this ribbon on the bottom layer back out to the edge that went into hiding. Lifting the mesh, because if you don't lift the mesh and you just pull the ribbon, you're going to fray one or both, either the ribbon or the mesh. We don't want to do either of those things. So I'm going to bring this out. I think I finally found the right position for the camera so you can see everything I'm doing better. And not the back of my head, where I'm starting to get a bald spot. Oh, the joys of aging! But the alternative is not better. Alright. Get this mesh out of the way. And I'm running my finger over the ribbon as I bring it back out to the edge to make sure it's straight and not wrinkled or folded over. Because I'm talking, I'll probably repeat one. I can multitask, but sometimes. What was it my dad used to say? My mom couldn't chew bubblegum and walk. That woman could do anything, though. She was amazing. Alright. I think we're back to the beginning. Yep. So now I'm going to do the top. So that's my center, so I'll do those last. Let me make sure these are all where I want them to be and curled right. Or appropriate to how I want. And I'm making sure to bring that bottom one out to the outer edge so I can cover some more of the mesh. I'll go ahead and do this one now since the two on each side of it are done. And you notice I'm not being particularly gentle with the ribbon. It's in there, it ain't coming out. As long as you have your ties in there nice and secure, you can manipulate all this with no problem at all. Okay. So that leaves these two in the top. Let's get these positioned. And if you're not sure how it looks when you're making one of these, bring out your phone and snap a picture of it. It's amazing how much different it looks on the camera than it does right up here in front of your face. And it can help you figure out if you need to make adjustments. Like I just smashed this one with my hand when I was fixing the other one. Let's get these all in place. Take a look at it one more time. I know that one looks crooked. No, it's supposed to be that way. Alright. This one goes on top. Yeah. Got this one backwards. What did I do wrong? Marguerite. Alright, so those go there. Those go there. That goes like that. I'm going to just snap a picture with my camera. I mean, I do have the video camera, but I don't want to mess with the settings anymore. So I'm going to take a picture. And look at it. And see if I need to make any adjustments. Alright. That means we are finished. I'm going to sit down to show it to you one last time. Or I do. Oof. This chair. And it doesn't pull up to the table very well either. It's like a fight. It's the little things. There you go. Alright, so it's going to be nice and thin. See how thin that really is? But when you look at it this way, how about like that? Doesn't that look fluffy? So there you go. Okay, there you have it. Now you see how this was created. Not very difficult. Just needed a couple of concepts and then finding the product that I needed to make it, cutting it, putting it together. It really is that simple. If you like what you've seen today on this tutorial, I do have tutorials for kits that I actually sell. They're all prepared for you so you can put them together. You just have to do a little bit of cutting on the ribbon. Everything else is done for you. If you would like to do something like that, you can hop on over to my Etsy shop. There's kits for every season, and I'm adding more every month. It's super easy. Also, if you like what you've seen today and want to see more, subscribe to the channel. Right now I have right around 50 videos. I started about a year ago, beginning of 2024, depending on when you're watching this. And I'm continuing to add content every Sunday afternoon, God willing. There have been a couple Sundays that I've kind of had to step away, especially in the busy season of the fall. So there is all that. If you like all of those things as well, you can also follow me on Facebook. It tells whenever I'm going to have another video come out. Also, any new product that I haven't made on video that's available in my shop will be shouted out there as well. And I do a lot of craft shows locally and coordinate a couple. So I always let everybody know that's local if they'd like to come and check out all of these things in person, because everything always looks better in person. That's a great way to find my product. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you had a great Christmas. And I don't remember if I'm putting this out before New Year's or after New Year's. So either way, have a great New Year's. 2025 looks to be a great year coming up. Fingers crossed and prayers said. So thank you again, and I enjoy my time with you. So I hope you do as well. I know you could be doing many other things instead of watching me, but you do spend some time with me, and that's very appreciated. Okay, guys, well, thanks a lot, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.